So, Jason, we are continuing our deep dive into Sectigo's recent survey results, where we surveyed 272 IT decision makers, certificate decision makers specifically, about their certificate agility and their certificate readiness. And
Yeah,
if you
this is
want go ahead.
yeah, this is a part two of a
Right.
something we
Of
had already
three.
started.
Part two of three.
Part two of three.
And we did in the previous. Please receive the previous episode where we went over the results of readiness for the March to 47-day certificates, and we gave the basics of the survey. So we're not going to do that again here. You can get that from there. What we want to do here is dive into the questions around post-quantum cryptography and its readiness. And because there are more questions for this section than 47 degrees of 47-day certs, you and I are breaking this into two chunks. This will be chunk one, and then episode 3 in our series will be chunk 2. Does that make sense?
Perfect. And what was the first question?
Okay, the first question is, how well does your organization understand the quantum computing threats to cryptography?
Okay,
And
so a basic awareness question.
basic awareness question. Clear understanding 25%, basic knowledge 33%, beginning to learn 42%, no knowledge at all 0%.
Interesting. I can tell you that no knowledge at all
Yeah.
was a more like a 90% in most anecdotal conversations, which is crazy.
Yeah,
But I think with this group, it's how they were screened.
Yeah, they were screened. So if they had no knowledge at all, they were screened out. So
Perfect.
by the time they're answering this question, those people have been removed. So that gives you kind of the break of the rest. This, of course, is how these people self-report their level of knowledge, right? Someone else may not agree, but
Sure.
this is their perspective on their level of knowledge. And even there, I think you see a lot of acknowledgement among the people in this group that, in general, they don't have a lot of information, right? That three-quarters of them kind of say, look, I don't really know as much as I could or should.
Right, and I think that's an important question, and I think the way to frame this is this. We are literally zooming in on the much smaller population of people, a much smaller population of people who have some form of awareness.
Right.
And so the problem with it, though, is that it colors the rest of the questions in the sense that this answer was really good, because I think it's maybe one of the most important ones, in that, hey, there's just so much more to know, and I'm acknowledging that, as you just said.
Right.
And so therefore, let's see how the rest of the questions then follow up, because asking people who barely know the topic a whole bunch of questions is sometimes difficult.
And that's why ultimately we did make the decision to screen out the people who said they didn't know anything, because we didn't feel like their answers were going to be revealing or useful for the remainder of the survey. And instead, what we wanted to do is focus on those people who did feel they had some level of knowledge. But do, again, understand that this is the answers to everything else we see is already screened for people who come into this already knowing what PQC is and having some sense for what needs to happen.
Pretty good.
All right, next question. Which best describes your organization's preparedness for the security risks posed by quantum computing? So this is a pick one. And again, we're going to go from most to least, as we've been doing. Actively implementing post-quantum cryptography solutions, 16%. Planning to implement within the next 12 months, 18%. Planning to implement within 12 to 24 months, 23%. Evaluating options, but no immediate implementation plans, 33%, and not evaluating options at all, 10%.
Okay.
So the breakdowns, evaluating people who have no plans is 43%. People who have plans but have done nothing is 41%. And then people who are actively doing something is 16%.
Yeah, I think the rest of the questions will help to parse this out in terms of what the activities actually are.
Right.
The fact that it's a little bit bottom heavy, meaning less activity than versus more activity, is probably what I would expect at this point in
I'm
time.
not surprised. I'm not at all surprised. These are
No.
early days, and I think
Yep.
what we're trying to do, those of us who have been watching this, like you and me, we're trying to galvanize action. What's really going to be interesting is I want to see what this question looks like in a year.
Oh yeah, it's going to really change.
Right? Because that's what we want to be looking. We want to be tracking progress over time. This as a baseline doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
We should think of this as the baseline. I think what's going to be interesting is what happens moving forward.
Perfect.
All right. Next question. What would help your organization feel more prepared to begin evaluating post-quantum cryptography? And this is a pick as many as you want. And this is in descending order. So access to internal or external expertise and resources, 59%. Better familiarity with PQC standards, processes, and policies, 52%. More education on PQC concepts and practical applications, 44%. Stronger understanding of PQC's relevance to our organization, 33%. Clearer guidance on how to begin, 26%. Established and widely accepted industry standards or frameworks, 22%. Support aligning PQC with other cybersecurity priorities, 11%. More clarity on the right timing for PQC adoption, 11%. And a well-defined business case or ROI to justify investment, 7%. So I think you see the real kind of starting stuff up at the top. Aspects to expertise, 59%. Better familiarity with the standards, 52%. More education, 44%. Right? So what I'm seeing when you look down to the bottom, things like clarity on the right timing for adoption, well-defined business case. Nobody's picking this. So what we're getting right now is what we're hearing is I don't even know. My head is swimming. I'm just hearing about this. I don't know what this is. I don't know anything yet. I need to learn.
Tim, that's a perfect answer. That's exactly how to categorize this.
Yeah.
That's what I'm sensing. And I'll tell you something. Expertise. I think it's Bruno Couillard who came on the podcast and said, "Hey, if you're starting up right now in IT at all, this whole topic area is so ripe for you right now. There are people who are going to want your skills if you start to build them."
Yeah, I agree. And so there's I think this aligns with the previous question also, where again, most people have no plans, or they plan to do something but they haven't done anything. I think we'd see the same thing here, right? Where this is very early days, and this one too will be interesting to see what it looks like in a year.
I'm only going to add one thing to what you just said, which is the large number of people who are still looking at, or maybe are unaware of, guidance documents. Because I don't know a jurisdiction right now in the world that has electricity that doesn't have a guidance document on PQC.
Yes, absolutely. Correct. You're right. And that actually leads directly into the next question. So the next question here. NIST has signaled the deprecation of RSA 2048 and ECC 2056 by 2030. That's in a guidance document, isn't it? Were you previously aware of this change, meaning previous to this question? So it's a yes/no question. There's actually yes, it's a yes/no question because remember they're screened. If they had no awareness, they were screened out. So the question is, yes, they were fully aware, or they know of it but they don't know the details. Fully aware, 42%. Know of it but don't know the details, 58%.
Okay.
Well, remember, this is what they were screened for.
Yes, but even those,
Yeah.
Here's what's going through my head. Even those people who have been screened, like this is your top.
Yes. These are the people who were screened, and 58% of them say, look, I know there's a thing, but I don't really know the details.
Wow.
Right?
That means you don't even know the thing that you said,
Right.
It's truly amazing. It really shows how the question right previous to this one, which is, I don't know, This is the question and answer that really proves more than half of you who were screened really don't know.
Really don't know. Yes. Agreed. And so all these are kind of crystallizing on the same thing, right? Which is that the stage now is educating the community. It's the educate the community stage that we're in, and we're in that stage hardcore.
Agreed.
Right. All right. Next question. Okay, now we're going to get into more. Now, so that sort of sets aside the awareness and knowledge segment of these questions. So let's put a little parentheses around that. Now we're going to move into actions and implementations. Okay. So next question, question 12. Has your organization conducted an assessment of systems vulnerable to quantum computing attacks? And the answer is yes. Okay, so again, yes, fully, 14%. Partially, 46%. Planning to do so within the next 12 months, 40%. No plans, 0%.
Okay.
I think this is over optimistic. I think this is some of what we talked about in the last episode, where people are probably overestimating how prepared they are. I'm skeptical that 40% of enterprises have a full assessment of the systems that are quantable for computing attacks. I'm skeptical that 4% have that.
Yeah, and some of them might be interpreting it as, I know where all my publicly trusted certificates are. Like that, that could be part of it, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah. The rest of this, partially 46%, planning to do so within the next 12 months, 40%, that strikes me as credible. That they've done some work.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I think, and we run into this a lot. We run into this when we ask about things like, do you know where all your certificates are? And people say yes. And we know factually that they don't. So I think what we start to see here again is not this, I don't know what I don't know. And so the vulnerability connected to this is that you can get yourself in trouble with a partial plan or a partial implementation that you think is full.
Look, I think that if more than half of the respondents didn't know about the NIST deprecation, immediately I'm like, look, I'm not sure if more than half the respondents even know how to answer any of these questions, is frankly my thought. I think that people do know what they're doing, what they're not doing. It's just, I think you're absolutely right in saying this smells to me like you're asking, your 10-year-old, hey, did you do your homework yet? Yeah, I did. No, you didn't.
Well, I think there could be an aspect of that too, which is just I don't want to admit that I'm as ill prepared as I really am.
You're seeing classic bias here, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. All right. Question 13. Do you have a budget allocated to quantum safe security initiatives over the next year? Do you want to think, what's your guess for yes?
Oh my goodness. I'm betting this cohort probably has a higher number than you and I would have suspected, Tim. That's my answer.
Yeah. A whopping 89% said yes.
Okay. Which
is good. Now, again, I think that to some degree, a lot of the people who wouldn't have this budget got screened out. But I also think there's a difference between I'm aware of the problem and I have budget.
Yes.
Right? And these people have budget.
It actually shows, Tim, that this cohort that has awareness has actually put some money behind, or some plans and money behind it, and might not even fully understand how to utilize that budget, what to do. So that's interesting, but extremely, it's good. They heard the clarion call.
Over the next year. So it might be listen, we're going to need some budget. We got some stuff in Q4. We got stuff moving into 2026. I don't know what I need to do now because what I need to do now is secure budget, right?
Perfect.
And that may be what we're seeing there, right? Why we see, and so think about it. This another way to think about it. This is forward looking. So for some of these other ones I've said, I'm going to be interested in seeing what this looks like in a year. This is people's intentions for what they'll be doing over the next year.
It might be the most optimistic answer we've seen so far in the survey.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Next question. How do you expect your organization's PQC investment to change over the next 2 to 3 years? So, significantly increase is 5% or more, increase between 1 and 5%, and stay the same. Do you want to think in your mind about what they are, and then I'll tell you?
I would expect an increase for sure, just as a general direction.
Yeah. So, and there's also go down. Go down is 0%. Okay. It's not even on the list, right?
Okay.
So significantly increase, 5% or more, 40%.
Yeah, there you go.
Increase between 1 and 5%, 52%.
Okay.
Stay the same 9, decrease 0.
There you go. Profoundly, we are at the beginning stages, Tim.
Yeah, we're at the beginning stages. But what I like about this is, again, a lot of recognition that we will be doing things. We will be implementing plans. We will be spending money. We will be putting solutions in place. A lot of recognition that we will be doing things.
Great question. Great answer.
And so, yeah, a lot of intention here. We see not a lot of action, but a lot of recognition of the need and a lot of intention for action. So then the next, I think it's 4 questions, and then that's where we're going to stop this episode, are clustered around prioritization. Okay? So here's the first one. Question 15. What are your organization's top quantum safe priorities? Okay, and again, this is a pick many. There's a list of about 8 things here. And I'm going to go top to bottom in terms of the most to least. Inventory, so this is your organization's top quantum safe priorities. Inventory and classification of cryptographic assets. 51% selected that. Risk assessments or impact analysis related to quantum threats. A slightly smaller 51% also selected that. Research and evaluation of post-quantum cryptography algorithms, 47%. Migration planning and roadmap development, 41%. Then there's a big drop-off. Upgrading or replacing cryptographic libraries and protocols, 27%. Certificate management modernization, 24%. Vendor engagement or third-party assessments, 21%. Training and upskilling internal teams on PQC, 19%. Pilot projects or POC implementations, 16%. And then lastly, there was a nothing, which was, it rounds to 0%. It's not actually 0. There is a little bar there, but it rounds to 0. And there's a don't know that also rounds to 0. So tiny number of people said nothing, but 99+% of them we're doing at least one of the things on this list.
So inventory, top of the list, and then taking context of that inventory, which is risk, is number 2. That's perfect. It's exactly what I would hope. It's just I don't understand why it's only 50%. But okay, that's fine. At least those are the biggest numbers.
Yeah, and I think we see this being well, to some degree, it was top quantum safe priorities. So if somebody feels they've already done inventory, they're not going to pick one of those. This was a pick 3, I believe. So they couldn't pick them all, right? So when you look at it that way, what we see is a strong focus toward early stage stuff. This aligns with the other things we've seen, right? I'm trying to do inventory, and I'm trying to do risk assessment, and I'm trying to understand what these algorithms are, right? What's the stuff that's not getting picked very much? Vendor engagement, pilot projects, right? Because they're not ready for that.
Yeah, no, we're too early stage for that.
Yeah. Exactly right.
Good.
So again, this aligns with the other things we're seeing. Okay, next one, question 16. Which best describes your organization's current approach to PQC migration? This is a pick one, okay? And I'm going to go over the list. Gradual phase-in, 27%. Waiting for more mature solutions, 23%. Hybrid approach, e.g. running traditional and PQ systems in parallel long-term, 16%. Complete system overhaul, 14%. And we don't have a strategy yet, 20%.
Okay.
So, thoughts?
Yeah, it's a good blend.
Yeah.
I think that the 20% just saying, hey, we don't know nothing.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, these are interesting numbers. I would, after now hearing some of the numbers of all of these put together, I'm having a hard time kind of piecing together how these people kind of came up to these things. However, none of these things are shocking or surprising. I think, I don't know. There's no gigantic insight that jumps out for me here.
Yeah, I think complete system overhaul 14%. That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So perhaps at this stage people think they're going to do a complete system overhaul. I'm skeptical that anybody really is.
Yeah.
That's
Although
a hard thing to do.
Although you're totally right. Anything that was put in recently, but we're talking about there are organizations out there that have a lot of legacy and are looking at this as an excuse to all right, system X, Y, and Z. This is the time to go.
That's stuff that somebody wrote in the 1980s, right?
Time to go.
We're going to get rid of it. Yes, exactly. I'll also contend that gradual phase-in and a hybrid approach, e.g. running traditional PQ systems in parallel in the long term, though they're not identical, they're very similar.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you lump those two together, that's 43%. That's almost half.
And I would say that's absolutely expected. That's the right way. That's the right way we're going to be for the short and medium term for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. And then what are the most influential factors driving your organization's need for PQC adoption? Again, I think this is a pick up to 3. We had a big list. This time it's more. It's maybe like 10 or 12 options. So most influential factors driving your organization's need for PQC adoption. I think a couple of these will be interesting to you, Jason. Number 1, preparing for NIST algorithm deprecation of RSA and ECC. 50%. Top of the list. Second, proactively preparing to meet upcoming standards and new government mandates. This is very similar. 48%, second on the list.
Okay.
Third one, we conducted a risk assessment that revealed long-term exposure, 47%.
Wow.
Fourth one, protecting our brand reputation from potential outages or business interruptions, 46%. Then again, we drop off pretty fast. So here's the next one. We handle highly sensitive or long-lived data, 40%. After that, our leadership made PQC a priority or raised concerns about quantum risk, 31%. Next one, regulatory audit or compliance review highlighted cryptographic risks, 31%. After that, we want to position ourselves as an industry innovator or early adopter, 30%. Now it's going to drop again. We are modernizing our infrastructure and want to future-proof it, 25%. Client or partner required us to explore quantum-safe strategies, 24%. A competitor announced its own PQC initiatives, 24%. Harvest and decrypt mitigation. First mention of harvest and decrypt, 22%. And a breach or near miss highlighted weaknesses in our current encryption, 21%. So what I see when I look at this is the action really is being driven by guidance.
Yeah.
Right? From regulatory guidance, government mandates, standards, and NIST. right?
Excellent. It's funny how
not their own understanding, not we want to protect ourselves from harvest and decrypt. That's not the reason. The reason is there's a government mandate that we're supposed to do this.
So, look, I find it very interesting that this is one of the very first times in the survey that some numbers really line up, which is that 50 or so percent of you in this cohort that actually know about the deprecation from NIST, definite like hard guidance. This question kind of asks the question a slightly different way, which is, are you doing anything about it? And you have plans about it? And the answer is, yeah, this is my reasons. Yeah. That deprecation that I heard about is the clarion call that I'm following.
Right. And so I think that's my big takeaway from this question is that those clarion calls, to use your phrase, are working. The NIST announcements, the various announcements from a broad number of governments. You said earlier, I don't think there's a country that has electricity that doesn't have some kind of guidance. Right. That's why enterprises are taking action. And that's why we do it.
So anybody who hears the call, that call, is putting budget aside, is starting to build plans. And that's
learning and evaluating, understanding what they need to do. Yeah,
I think that's what this survey is revealing. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and I like that, right? Because I think that means that this guidance that we've seen from a bunch of different places, and you and I have reported on a lot of different episodes, is doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
All right. Last question on priorities, and last question for this episode, which is question 18. How are systems prioritized for PQC migration? So here are your choices. I think that's our last one. Yeah, that's our last one. So how are systems prioritized for PQC migration? Again, in descending order, this is a pick multiple. In descending order, data sensitivity, 66%. Risk level, 57%. Compliance requirements, 57%. Business impact, 50%. Durability of secrets, 49%. And system age, 37%. So not a lot of spread in here.
No, and I think that shows that there's just so much overlap in those concerns.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm worried about my data, and I'm also worried about being under compliance, right? So that's to me, I'm not sure people separate it, which is that's an interesting thought.
Yeah, I mean, data sensitivity being the top performer, I actually like, because it means that this is a little more of an eyes open process rather than saying, I'm doing this because I was told to.
Yeah.
Though they were, and they acknowledged that. Now they're saying, now that I'm doing this because I was told to, I'm sitting down and saying, okay, what's the data I most want to protect?
Excellent point, Tim. That is a higher order thought than just I was told to. Yeah, you got it.
Right. So again, I like that. I think that's good. And that's outperforming compliance requirements. They're all kind of clustering near each other. So I think that's where we want to break this one.
Yeah.
And we'll get into another set in another episode. But the thesis or the synthesized thing that we saw, that you and I saw here when we look at this data, is that it's very early. People are still trying to figure out what to do about it. There is broad recognition that something has to be done about it, and this mostly came from various guidelines and government guidance and things along those lines. And now that broad recognition is in place, there is definitely intent to do something. But specifically what we're doing maybe is a little less clear, and actual activity, true action, is pretty scarce at this stage.
Yes, sir. Tim, I'm going to put it into a slightly like stepping way back context, and then we can end this, which is the way back context is probably 90% of people, and hopefully we're less than that now. I'm hoping it's only 85 to 80% of people are just completely unaware of what is they're facing. That's just the God honest truth right now of what's going on, and that's crazy. This survey is a double click on the smaller cohort of people who do have awareness.
Yes.
And the thing that I love that I'm hearing, and you've said it, is once they've heard the call, they're thinking very rapidly. They don't have full plans. They are putting budget aside, and they're thinking higher order thoughts about risks around data.
And
Great
I think
answer.
that's entirely understandable, right? You've got a community of people who are being introduced to this new need and this new risk that wasn't really in their minds 6 months ago.
No.
And they are doing the right things you would do under these circumstances, which is get information and formulate a plan and formulate a strategy. And that's what you would hope to see. So in that regard, I'm actually, I don't know if I want to say not so surprised, but pleased with what we see when we look at the results of this.
I think this is classical risk response that's healthy and good. And that's great. I think that you mentioned something earlier in this podcast as well. I think it's going to be utterly fascinating when we redo this next year.
Yeah, I definitely, for like every single question, I'm really going to be interested in the year over year.
Yes.
And that, but this still establishing this baseline now. This is interesting. So listeners, if you didn't, go back and listen to the previous episode where we're going to describe readiness for 47-day certs. A lot of fascinating stuff there. Very interesting one. And also stay tuned because the next episode, which may or may not be available depending on how quickly you listen to this, the next episode, we're going to finish off the PQC survey results.
Excellent, Tim.
And I'll mention one more time. There's a whole paper on this with the charts and everything available from Sectigo. So you can come get the charts and things for yourself.
Thanks, Tim.
All right. Thank you, Jason.